It was supposed to be the happiest Christmas charity event in the city, but the moment the little girl looked into the widowed millionaire's eyes and quietly whispered, "You look like someone who needs a family too," the crowd around them fell completely silent. Reporters stopped taking photographs. Volunteers froze in place. Even the cheerful holiday music suddenly seemed distant. No one expected the wealthiest man in attendance to begin trembling as tears filled eyes that had forgotten how to cry. Before we continue this unforgettable journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps our community continue sharing stories that remind us the greatest miracles often arrive through the smallest acts of compassion. Christmas morning painted the city in soft winter sunlight that sparkled across rooftops dusted with fresh snow. The streets were decorated with bright ribbons, evergreen wreaths, and cheerful market stalls where families laughed together. Every corner seemed alive with celebration, yet inside a polished black luxury car, Alastair Rowan sat in complete silence. His expensive suit was flawless, his watch was worth more than most homes, and his company employed thousands of people across the country. Newspapers admired his business genius, magazines praised his generosity, and financial experts described him as unstoppable. None of them knew that every achievement felt empty because 2 years earlier he had buried his wife, Celeste, after a sudden illness. Since then, he had built taller office towers, donated larger sums to charities, and surrounded himself with assistants, advisors, and security personnel, hoping success might drown out loneliness. Instead, every accomplishment only echoed inside a life that no longer felt like home. His annual Christmas donation had become one of the city's biggest charitable traditions. Every year he visited the community center to distribute gifts, fund holiday meals, and write another enormous check. The cameras always captured a smiling businessman helping children. They never captured the moment he returned to his silent mansion afterward, where untouched decorations gathered dust and every room reminded him of conversations that would never happen again. This Christmas felt no different as he stepped from the car into bright daylight. Volunteers welcomed him warmly. Reporters thanked him for his generosity. Children lined up excitedly to receive gifts. Everything followed the familiar routine until one little girl quietly stepped out of line holding a small handmade Christmas card instead of reaching for a present. Her name was Cora Whitfield. She was 8 years old, wore a faded green winter coat that had clearly belonged to someone older, and carried herself with surprising confidence despite the uncertainty in her young life. She lived with her grandfather after losing both parents in a highway accident nearly 3 years earlier. Her grandfather loved her deeply, but failing health and mounting medical bills had left them struggling. They owned very little, yet Cora possessed something that could never be purchased. She noticed loneliness in people long before anyone else did. As Alastair handed another child a wrapped gift, Cora patiently waited until he noticed her. She smiled gently and offered him the handmade card instead. Inside was a simple drawing of a house surrounded by smiling stick figures holding hands beneath a bright winter sun. Across the top she had written, "Nobody should celebrate Christmas feeling alone." Alastair thanked her politely, assuming she wanted an autograph or another present. Instead, she looked directly into his tired eyes and softly said, "You look like someone who needs a family too." The words landed with astonishing force. Nobody had spoken to him like that since Celeste died. Executives praised him. Journalists admired him. Investors respected him. Employees feared disappointing him. But no one had looked beyond the tailored suit, expensive smile, and successful reputation to see the lonely man underneath. For several long seconds he couldn't answer. Cora wasn't trying to embarrass him. She simply spoke with the innocent honesty children sometimes possess before the world teaches them to hide uncomfortable truths. She pointed toward the families laughing together across the community center courtyard. "My grandpa says money buys warm houses," she explained gently, "but people make them homes." Alastair felt something inside him crack. He had spent years believing grief was something to survive alone. That afternoon he surprised everyone by canceling the remainder of his scheduled interviews. Instead of leaving immediately after the donation ceremony, he stayed to help volunteers serve Christmas lunches. Without photographers directing him, he carried tables, poured drinks, handed out blankets, and listened to people's stories. For the first time in years, he wasn't performing generosity. He was simply present. Throughout the afternoon he noticed Cora helping elderly guests carry food trays before serving herself. Whenever another child looked disappointed because a toy they wanted had already been claimed, she quietly offered her own. Her grandfather watched proudly from a nearby chair, though frequent coughing revealed how fragile his health had become. Eventually Alistair introduced himself properly. He learned about Cora's parents, her grandfather's illness, and the little apartment they fought desperately to keep despite rising rent and medical expenses. Yet neither of them asked him for money. Instead, Cora excitedly described her dream of becoming an architect because she wanted to design houses where nobody would ever feel lonely again. That dream reminded Alistair painfully of Celeste, who had often imagined creating neighborhoods centered around community instead of luxury. Driving home beneath the bright afternoon sky, he realized something remarkable. For the first time since becoming a widower, he wasn't thinking about what he had lost. He was thinking about someone else's future. The following week he quietly arranged for his foundation to cover the grandfather's medical treatment anonymously. He expected gratitude. Instead, Cora's grandfather respectfully returned the paperwork. He explained that accepting endless charity without contributing anything in return would teach Cora the wrong lesson. They accepted help only if dignity remained intact. Those words humbled Alistair. The next day he offered the grandfather a consulting position within one of his community development programs, drawing upon decades of construction experience the older man had nearly forgotten he still possessed. This time the offer was accepted. Months passed. Alistair found himself visiting more often. Not because he felt obligated. Because he wanted to. Weekend lunches gradually replaced lonely business meetings. Community projects became more important than luxury investments. His mansion, once perfectly maintained yet emotionally empty, slowly transformed. Children's drawings appeared on the refrigerator. Fresh flowers returned to the dining table. Laughter echoed through rooms that had remained silent for years. Still, fear lingered inside him. He worried he was dishonoring Celeste's memory by allowing happiness back into his life. One afternoon he finally visited the botanical garden where they had married years before. Sitting beneath the winter sunlight, he admitted aloud how guilty he felt for smiling again. An elderly groundskeeper overheard only part of the conversation before quietly offering unexpected wisdom. He said, "Grief never asks us to stop living. Love asks us to keep sharing what we learned from those we've lost." Alistair realized Celeste had never wanted him imprisoned by sorrow. She had always believed love grew larger when shared. Inspired by that realization, he launched a nationwide initiative building affordable family housing connected with community centers, childcare services, counseling programs, and educational opportunities. Instead of attaching his own name to every project, he named the foundation after Celeste, ensuring her compassion continued touching lives long after her passing. Cora became the unofficial ambassador. Whenever television crews interviewed the billionaire about his newest projects, she happily interrupted to explain that buildings mattered less than kindness. Viewers adored her honesty. Years later, as she entered university to study architecture with a scholarship funded by the very foundation she had inspired, she carried the same handmade Christmas card inside her notebook. The paper had faded. The drawing remained simple. Its message never lost meaning. Alistair often said that billions of dollars had never changed his life. One little sentence from one courageous child had. He never legally adopted Cora because she already had a grandfather who loved her beyond measure, and Alistair respected that bond completely. Instead, they created something equally meaningful. He became family by choice rather than paperwork. He attended every school event, celebrated every achievement, encouraged every dream, and stood beside both Cora and her grandfather through life's joys and hardships. Their relationship proved that family is built through commitment, trust, and love, not only through blood. When Cora graduated as an architect years later, she unveiled her first completed neighborhood. Every home faced a shared park instead of turning away behind tall fences. Wide porches encouraged conversations. Safe playgrounds welcomed every child. Community gardens brought strangers together until they became neighbors. Above the entrance stood a simple stone inscription that read, "Nobody should celebrate life feeling alone." Alastair stood quietly reading those words while families filled the streets with laughter. He remembered the broken man who had once believed success could replace belonging. He remembered the frightened little girl who had somehow recognized his hidden pain before anyone else. He remembered that Christmas morning when hope arrived disguised as a child's simple observation. Sometimes the greatest gifts are never wrapped. Sometimes they arrive as truth spoken with innocence. Sometimes they rebuild hearts that money never could. Before this story comes to its close, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe family is created by blood, by choice, or by the love we show one another every single day. Your words may encourage someone who is feeling alone right now. As another Christmas approached years later, the community gathered once again beneath bright daylight to celebrate families, friendship, and hope. Children played across the snowy park while volunteers served warm meals. Alastair looked around at hundreds of smiling faces connected through compassion rather than wealth, and he finally understood that the lonely mansion he once called home had never needed more expensive furniture or grander decorations. It had only needed people willing to walk through its doors and fill it with love. The little girl who once believed a stranger needed a family had been right all along. She had not rescued a millionaire from financial ruin. She had rescued a grieving heart from a lifetime of emotional emptiness, reminding him that the richest life is measured not by what we own, but by the people who choose to stand beside us through every season. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May we all remember that the smallest act of kindness can become the greatest miracle in someone else's life, and that no matter how lonely yesterday may have been, hope always has the power to make today feel like home.